want to talk to you about the voting age again because it really is very important. There are many radical political parties that are quite happy to destroy democracy in their attempt to gain permanent power. Now, they obviously think that it's right and proper that they have permanent power, but so did any dictator that's ever ruled. So, it really is important that the voting system isn't skewed by people with an agenda that has nothing to do with democracy and everything to do with mob rule. Okay, so I'm going to talk about that again, and that's basically because I got some absolutely fantastic posts underneath my last video, which didn't get that many views, by the way. Well, that's it. I don't do these videos for clicks. I am hoping to have a serious conversation about whatever takes my fancy in the news, basically. All right, and I do my best to read the comments. I try to respond to as many as I can. I really do want a conversation. Although, I thought I was being a bit radical when I proposed the idea of lifting the voting age, and I was absolutely astonished to find that many of the people who responded to my video not only agreed with me, but were even more radical about the age which a voting age should be established. I mean, my idea was a minimum of 21 and possibly even 25, but there were some people talking about putting it up into the 30s. Well, we are living longer. And as I said, we do have now an extended adolescence. So maybe the 30s is a good idea, although, I do think that's a little bit extreme. Anyway, I'm going to be talking now about the arguments for children being given the vote. But before I do, I'm going to identify myself. I'm Granniopteryx, and I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute, and Mind. Since YouTube is particularly bad at notifications, I'm also on Twitter, Gab and Parler at Granniopteryx. And if you subscribe to me on one of those, you'll never miss knowing about when I've uploaded a new video, which if you're on YouTube, if you're watching me on YouTube, it's quite likely that will happen. Anyway, let's give Twitter a boost. Because it's certainly doing some good work now. It's revealing all sorts of icky stuff about the suppression of news and information that might be embarrassing to particularly the Democrat Party in the United States. But it's never just one thing, is it? And I don't know what they're suppressing about what's going on in the United Kingdom as well, and no doubt in other parts of the Anglosphere. Australasia, for instance, or Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh, Canada. Anyway, it will help my channel if you like this video and if you subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, check you still subscribed, because that's not a given either. Okay, you can also help me financially, buy me a coffee, or one of the other links in the description. Right. Back to children voting. Look, some politician, I don't remember who it was, but I'll bet you it was a Labour politician, said it's their future. And because it's their future, 16-year-olds should be allowed to vote. Well, I'll start to believe a 16-year-old thinks about any future further than next Saturday night's party when I notice 16-year-olds taking extra paper rounds or digging gardens or something in order to pay for life insurance. That it's their future argument is a prime example of politicians simultaneously flattering, the 16-year-olds, oh, you're all grown up, and nothing a 16-year-old likes better than to look all grown up. Look, I know that there are some very wise and perceptive 16-year-olds, but I also know that there are many more who are not. I'll get back to that in a minute. But anyway, here's the politicians flattering and using semantics while deflecting from issues such as how sensible a 16-year-old actually is. As I said, there are many very wise 16-year-olds, but there are far more who are thoroughly irresponsible. And when we're talking about any variant of democracy, whether it's a constitutional monarchy or a republican system, as in the USA, we have to consider the majority rather than the glittering few. And but there was another argument which is a little harder to deal with, and that was put forward in the comments, and it's got a lot more merit. Just a minute, I'm going to sneeze. Oh, well, as I keep saying, it's a commonplace, at least in Yorkshire, that when you sneeze, when you're saying something, it's the truth. And the argument that I was going to talk about before I started sneezing was that if you're old enough to fight for your country and to lay down your life for your country, then you should be old enough to vote for the politicians that might take you into a war. And it is something seriously to consider. I'm not saying that argument should be dismissed out of hand, but having considered it, I then started thinking, well, it's a bit like the argument that if a 5-year-old kid can handle a knife and fork, then that 5-year-old kid should be qualified to decide what he wants to eat. I mean, if I applied that rule to my own kids, they'd have grown up eating Mars bars. An 18-year-old is at the more or less the peak of physical fitness, but is not at the peak of mental capacity, and that has been scientifically proved. And so an 18-year-old can be trained to take orders, can fight for his life, can show great fortitude, but so can a dog. And while we're on the subject of dogs, there are doggy mine detectors who risk their lives every day to find landmines. Does that mean they should get the vote? Well, as worthy and as honest and as lovable and as beautiful a soul as my own dog is, if we gave him the vote, it would be free gravy bones for everyone, including the vegetarians. Okay, that's a bit facetious, but I'm sure you get my point. The point is that it is one of the unfairnesses of human development that you become big and strong and a good fighter when you're 18, but still you don't have the experience to choose the people who send you into the fight. Well, you know, yeah, those are the breaks. Anyway, that's my opinion of the 16-year-old voting age controversy. Right, well, see you next time. Why not treat yourself or a favoured relative or friend to these magnificent examples of merch? The mugs and t-shirts come in the granniopteryx design or Granbo with a firearm or the more deadly knitting needles. Go to www.granniopteryx.com and whatever platform you're watching this on, please click like, subscribe and share.